Professor Carol Sikora is on the line, who's an oncologist, Chief Medical Officer of Rutherford Health, and Claire Gerada as well. Dr. Claire Gerada, former chair of the Royal College of GPs, frequent appearer on this programme, and also someone who has had COVID-19. Good morning to you both.
Good morning.
First question, Claire Gerada. Morning to you. How are you?
I'm a lot better, thank you. I feel as if I've been through 5 rounds with Mike Tyson, but I'm coming through the other end, and there is life after COVID-19.
Just for someone who hasn't heard you over the weekend, and you have talked about it a bit, just give us a kind of an account from beginning to now of what happened to you and how you felt.
Yeah, I came back from New York, which at first denied it had any corona at all, and then closed and said it had a state of emergency. So I half suspected, when I got a very high temperature and a dry mouth, a terrible cough and a sore throat, that this was corona. At the time, 111 was still testing, so I got tested in one of the pods, and for about 3-4 days felt really, really unwell. I mean, I can describe it as the worst flu I've ever had, and you just want to sleep. You ache all over. You feel dreadful. You've got a high temperature, but actually, your body is the most amazing thing. It's not like a car, which when it breaks down has to be mended. It fixes itself, and my body has fought this. It's created an immune response. I'm probably immune. I'd hope Mark Walpott would say I would be, and later on when the testing comes out, I probably will be tested for that. And my body has kept me going. So on very little, I've had probably 2 paracetamol every 8 hours when I could remember. So again, I think it is a serious issue we're having. Of course it's serious, but we mustn't underestimate the power of our own human bodies, which I'm 60, I'm not in the first throes of youth, yet my body has helped me get through this and has done what it needs to do, which is to build up the immunity.
And Professor Sikora, the danger, I suppose, is that we take blanket measures that actually create other problems, including life-threatening problems for people when we needn't.
I think so. I mean, the edict to sort of basically cocoon the over 70s, it's not the absolute age, it's the health problems people have. So a 50-year-old who smokes, has COPD, chronic lung damage, who is diabetic, who is obese, is much greater risk of getting serious complications from COVID than someone like me who's okay in his 70s, I work full-time, and I'm pretty healthy. And I think that's the trouble. In the NHS, we've got away from using age as a cut-off for everything. So, when I was a junior doctor, you couldn't get dialysis for kidney failure if you were over 55. Bone marrow transplant stopped at 50. Now we don't have cut-off ages. We look at the person. Now, it's very difficult to manage the situation, and I'm very grateful I still take the dog for a walk. I think communications on this has been very poor. It's the first time I've seen a failure. Until now, what the government's been doing here is, I think, very sensible. And although different countries are doing different things, that's because the evidence just isn't there. No one knows where to go next. And the authoritarian governments find it easier than the more liberal governments like ours, the way British people react.
On the subject of isolation and self-isolation, Claire Gerada, you have obviously, I mean, not for months, but you obviously done it to yourself in recent days, and it does create a psychological difficulty, and possibly more than that, in an elderly person who is already quite isolated. It's not something to be taken lightly, is it?
Not at all. I mean, I'm slightly bored already, I have to say, and I'm not elderly or infirm, and I think we're going to have to really focus on how we help our elderly population, how we help our neighbours. What I'm noticing really sweetly is people dropping notes underneath the door, can I help? I've known an elderly couple down the road who contacted me to say their neighbour knocked on their door and said, listen, if you're isolated, we're here to help you. So I think we're going to have to sort this through, because I don't have elderly parents. All 4 of my grandparents and Simon's parents are now dead, but if they weren't dead, I would be very, very worried about them being isolated. Who's who's going to look after them? So I think each family has to create a plan. We may find that you have a designated carer who's somebody that may have had it, such as I've had it, or a designated person that goes in and helps your elderly parents. But it isn't easy. And we're all going to have to work it through. I must say 4 months is a long time. But
yeah. Well, look, final one, Professor Sikora, and a wider one. But people are noticing that there are quite different death rates in different countries. Now, of course, there are all sorts of reasons why that might be, and quite apart from anything else, who is actually tested. We do need to get the best knowledge that we can, don't we, and for that knowledge to be shared.
Absolutely. And that's the problem. The denominator is unknown in most countries. We don't know how many people really have been infected by the virus. And the death rate, remember, many people are not dying of the virus. They're coming up to their end of life anyway. And the virus, they may be positive for the virus when they're tested, but it doesn't necessarily mean the virus has necessarily tipped them over the edge. And that's the problem. There are so many variables here.
All right.
And different people do different things.
We have to leave it there. Professor Carol Sikora and Claire Gerarda as well, Dr. Claire Gerarda. Thank you both very much.